Hello and welcome to the AutoFill tutorial. If you recognize this button, this setting, this interface, that means this tutorial is for you. In this video, we're going to discuss some compositing moments, why you need advanced folder, and about noise growth source, which is pretty cool, and that's why we are here. We're going to learn more about AutoFill. So we will start from this case. For example, you're having a big B. You have a big B letter and you want to fill it. And you might notice that, okay, let's start from here. Yeah. So you could see more clearly that this filling is not perfectly curved, really. As you can see, we have flat line, a little bit of edge, flat line. It's a little bit polygonal. Okay, it's not curvy enough. So for big elements like this, you should go to advanced folder and you can increase blur radius, for example, for 25, and it will become a little bit faster. But you already could see we can remove speed a little bit. Yeah, you can see that now it's not polygonal, now it's curvy and with the shape of the sphere, and now we having this kind of motion blur effect. But if you don't like it, you can apply simple choker with number 1 and turn off preview input. And look at that. Now we're having this smooth, and also when it's trying to bend, avoid these holes in letter B, this also become more curvy, which is nice. Okay, but why then you won't use this always, because it's give you better result? Well, that's why we have a second example of this text when everything is not so big, but again really small. So we are going to start rendering from here and look what will happen. As you can see, nothing is happening, and that was intentional. That happens because you have to check your speed map parameters, because it's default parameters and they work most of the time. But if you're having some problems with your specific super thin or super thick elements, just check speed map. That could be a problem with your AutoFill. And if we will look at our speed map, we turn off preview input and turn view speed map. As you can see, you can't see nothing. Okay, why it's like that? It's because auto speed map have to be a little bit eroded, so it should be a little bit thinner than original shape that we are going to fill. But what if our original shape is already super thin? Well, it disappears apparently. So we should turn map erode off. And now we see it. But still, okay, now we see it, but okay, let's look what will happen. It's filling and stops. Why is that? It's because our speed map is not white. It's so blurred out that everything is gray, and in some points super gray, even dark gray. That's why it's super slow. And we can turn off our speed map completely, but we will adjust it and we will decrease map softness to 0, maybe to 2. So we will have this a little bit slowing down on the edges. Maybe it's not necessary because everything here already super slowed down. already super thin, so we won't see a difference. So we have auto speed map or we don't have. But still, that's how you solve problems. You can just turn off speed map to see was that a problem, and if not, you can edit it so it will fit your needs. And again, let's have a look what will happen now. Now everything is working, but as you can see, some small and thin lines were not filled. That's exactly because our blur radius is too big. Our blur radius is 6. So if you will blur out this image to 6 levels or blur radius or 6 radius, it will totally disappear and AutoFill could not fill it. So that's why we will try to fill it again, but with blur radius 2. And let's have a look. Now you see that almost everything will be filled, and because blur radius 2, we should increase speed to, okay, maybe 9. Okay, that was too much, but you got the concept. It were filled eventually. Maybe too fast. So yeah, maybe it was a little bit too complicated, but the simple rule is if you have something big and you need to fill big shape, use bigger amount of radius. That will give you more curvy, more pleasant look. If you have something super small like details and you don't see that everything were filled, first of all, check speed map. The second, reduce your radius. That will help you a lot. The next thing, let's use something standard like super logo. We're going to use, compositing. Compositing is pretty cool, you know how it's feeling right now. Let's make this fill. Oh yeah, we have small radius and we don't need so small radius, maybe 6. Yeah, pretty cool. And now let's start from here. And now what can we do? We're going to discuss compositing, right? Right. Compositing. Did you know that actually you can use multiple autofills, one on top of another? And that's why we need compositing folder. So first of all, ignore previous effect. We need that button because autofill can be on top of another autofill, but that means that second autofill will use our first autofill as a source, and it will be animated source, and it will be a little bit different from our first autofill. But what if we want to use, we want to use two absolutely identical autofill for our some kind of compositing needs? So that's why we need ignore previous effect. And alpha invert is just alpha inverted. Also, you know, pretty handy thing. For example, you can use autofill to delete something. It's pretty powerful tool that I'm using sometimes. So you can duplicate autofill from here, and this autofill will fill everything, right? And no. Yes, we should apply one on top of another. So, and this autofill will ignore previous effect, right? But it will be inverted and it will be composited over original, and with some delay, for example, like 55. What's going on? It growing, right? So frame What is it, frame 44? Let's start from frame 44. And then we can composite over original and stencil Luma or stencil Alpha. Oh yes, I forgot to turn it on, just obviously. And yeah, now you have your first autofill and second autofill that delete first autofill while ignoring it, so it's not affecting how it's growing. So, and also you can see a little bit the borders. That's why we have border expand, and tada, look at that, revealing and disappearing of the logo. So that's why you need this compositing folder. And of course you can color fill with any color you want, and you can also composite over original with different blending modes, which is nice. Then the most interesting part and a big part of this tutorial is animations inside AutoFill and animations of the AutoFill source. Okay, we're going to use noise. Noise is pretty cool. If you look at that, it creates a multiple dots that grows over time and creating this animation. So it's all sources and they will touch eventually everything. So if you're having a lot of small details, words or eyes with dots, with a lot of dots, and you need to fill them all, you can use noise texture, or you can use layer and create these noise textures by yourself, which is also handy, or you can animate these points. Everything here I'm talking about animation, and we don't need this marker. And things get a little bit tricky with animation. It could be solved easily, but I want to explain you why it's happening. So what I'm talking about, for example, if you have not like this, like that, if you're having some kind of animation and you do something like this, you see I'm filling it with a lot of frames that were rendered not from the beginning, that were rendered randomly. And what we will have glitches and jumps, and all that could be solved only by pressing resimulate button, right? So it will start rendering from the beginning and everything will be filled just right. And noise grow source, it's pretty cool if you want to like autofill a lot of disconnected elements. It's really, for example, our points, you have only 5 points, which is if you have a book or text inside your After Effects and there is a lot of disconnected elements, well, yeah, 5 points is obviously not so much. That's why noise reveal is kind of handy. But we have problems with this animation stuff, and yes, you can press resimulate and everything will be solved. But I want to explain you one thing. If you have really complicated project, for example, we have animation using noise. Yes, we have animation using noise. And all that animation is here because we pre-render it. And in fact, it's right now playing smoothly, and it also could be used in some complex project because it in After Effects cache which is nice, which is great, but After Effects cache having some optimization magic. What it does, it's actually deleting AutoFill cache over time. It's cache not only AutoFill, but cache of other effects. That's why even if you're rendering, for example, this planet from the beginning, it is possible that you might experience some glitches. That's because you made AutoFill with animation. I will show you maybe a little bit more about it. So, frame 100, I'm going to open it. So, AutoFill works totally differently from how After Effects works. AutoFill using it rendering outside After Effects in its GPU world. As I explained you before, AutoFill, for example, speed. What does it mean? It means that AutoFill will render everything 6 times per frame. So, if you're at frame 100, right, and you have point, okay, let's go to a frame 50, and you can actually, in real time, place this point parameter anywhere, and as you can see how fast and how often AutoFill updates. It's faster than real time, and we are at frame 50 with a speed 6. It means that we have 300 simulation iterations right now, not only per frame, but per move. I move it a little bit, I move it a little bit, and you see it's changing constantly. 300 frames changing constantly. After Effects can't do that. It's another dimension of GPU calculations. But that's why AutoFill is so fast, but that's why AutoFill can't work with not static images. Why? Because if you are at frame 100, yes, and you rendering something, so you just want to see result at the frame 100. AutoFill not grabbing every 100 frames from After Effects to truly simulate every frame by frame by frame, put it in After Effects cache, and then give you frame 100. No. If you're using AutoFill and just scroll and render from frame 100, it will grab only frame 100, will put it in AutoFill, run simulation, and give you a result in an AutoFill world. So if anything happening between frame 0 and frame 100, AutoFill doesn't know that. So you can give him frame 100 and he will render static state of your image at frame 100. You can give him frame 25 and it won't get previous simulated information from previous frame or from future frame. No, you give him frame 25 and he will get this static state from frame 25 and frame 100 and put it together. And when you play, you have different simulations. But there is a solution. First, and maybe the easiest, let's highlight it with like that. First, and maybe the easiest, don't use AutoFill with animation. Don't animate parameters inside AutoFill, and don't use AutoFill with animated source. This way, AutoFill will be stable forever, and every simulation will be stable because AutoFill grabs stable static frames and renders them, and then when you playing from the beginning, everything for you it's like that. Everything is totally fine. But It is possible to use AutoFill with simulation, with animation, and with animated source. You can just press Resimulate button. That's also kind of solution. But if you do that, please don't use AutoFill in super complex projects, because cache that you saved will be deleted from, and it's not our fault, it's just how After Effects optimize it cache. And there is a third solution which 100% stable and always, and you can do whatever you want. You can use animated sources, you can use animated parameters inside AutoFill, just pre-render it. So if you creating something super complex using AutoFill, you using multiple points that animate it, you have complex illustration from disconnected elements, you're using animated noise growth that filling all that points, and you're using animated point that flying and infecting every element with AutoFill, then then you're going to use this big element of AutoFill work in a complex project. So AutoFill was complex work, but you are going to use it in a complex project. Please just pre-render AutoFill from the beginning, press Resimulate to remove cache, and just, I don't know, maybe a little bit overkill, but also remove all memory and disk cache, press Resimulate, render from the beginning, save this video of AutoFill simulation, and then this rendered AutoFill simulation you can put in your project. This way everything will work totally fine every time. And in fact, it's not a big deal. And if you look at the AutoFill comments or AutoFill feedback, not so many people actually notice this problem. But still, if you want to be AutoFill professional and you using it heavily every day in different scenarios, well, here you go. Now you know how to use AutoFill and how to make it work stably for you every time. So thank you very much for your attention. That was it. That was everything about AutoFill and about some secret tips and tricks and how it works from inside. Thank you very much.